10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, and welcome to Dax Chats. In this episode, I'm speaking to somebody from Scotland, but he now lives in Australia. He spent the last 5 years in Australia, and just recently he hit #1 on My Country Thunder 20 charts with his song Forever Dreamin'. It's not there this week, but it was there last week. It's dropped down a couple of places this week, but today, Dax chats to Wallace Mair, and here he is. G'day, Wallace. How are you?
Good day, Dax. How are you, mate? Great to be on your show. Thank you very much, mate. Thank you. It's great to be here.
No problem. So you're not from Australia. You now live in Australia, but you're originally from Scotland. So tell us all about Wallace Mair and how you came to be where you are now.
Yes, I came to Australia with my wife Yvonne 5 years ago. We're now in Canberra, and we decided to give Australia a go, and we're still here 5 years later. Obviously, quite a long way from home, but
yes.
very, very much worth it, you know. Obviously, I'm very much involved in the music scene, and Canberra has got some amazing artists, you know, as of course Australia has. So yeah, we're very much settled here, and all the way from the Mull of Kintyre to Canberra.
I know a song called The Mull of Kintyre. That's from Paul McCartney.
Yes, that's Paul McCartney, and the story goes, my dad in the 60s was in a very famous band called Rabin the Klansman, and
they were friends with the Beatles.
Yeah, they toured.
Yes.
They toured America, and they went to Soho in London. They supported the Kinks, and of course they meet the Beatles in Soho. So my dad's band brought bagpipes into rock and roll, and covered one of the Beatles songs with the bagpipes, and Paul McCartney was absolutely overwhelmed by this, you know. And they were having a laugh in Soho, in some pub in Soho one night, and Paul McCartney decided that he was going to try and have a go at the bagpipes. Well, there was a few.
The bass player's going to have a go at the bagpipes.
There was a few scary noises from the bagpipes, and
I'm sure I would never even try it.
Yeah, for sure. He could blow them up, but that was as far as it got. John Lennon, he couldn't even blow them up. So they said it was absolutely hilarious, and obviously the press got a hold of it, and there was an article about it. In fact, I'll send you a picture after the interview. So they must have mentioned that they were from the Mull of Kintyre. Now this is when it gets interesting. 10 years later, 12 years later, the Paul McCartney brings out the Mull of Kintyre. So the chances of that happening are pretty slim. And he also has, Paul McCartney also has a wee farm in the Mull of Kintyre, which him and Linda visited frequently. And I've got a friend in Melbourne
Mm.
called Jimmy McGehee.
Mm-hmm.
Now he is from a town in the Mull of Kintyre called Campbelltown,
Mm-hmm.
which is a wee bit further south from my village.
Mm.
And he played in the actual record
Mm.
on the Mull of Kintyre.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yep,
God,
he
it
was
comes.
he was in the pipe band.
Ah.
When you know how that beautiful moment when the pipes comes
Yep.
in,
Yep. Yep.
he was actually one of the bandsmen,
Wow.
and he's now in Melbourne, and we've hooked up, and we're going to get a bit of music going together eventually if we know this settles down.
Now,
So
you're not traditionally a country artist as such. You're more a folk rock artist. Would that be what you say?
yes, I like to call it country folk rock. That
Mm-hmm.
kind of genre.
Mm-hmm.
There's a huge mixture going on there, Dax. I wouldn't say it was full on country, with the slide and all
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. It's quite raw. If I could get away with it, I would like to kind of go between Johnny Cash and Kurt Cobain.
Hey,
That-
you can,
that's where my influences is coming from.
yeah,
Yeah.
wow. Kurt Cobain, that's a huge influence. So obviously you spent a lot of time touring over in the UK from Scotland from the age of 14. Now you told me a story that at one stage you played 61 pubs in 24 hours.
It was 12 hours.
12 hours, that's right. Sorry. I was just reading that before. How bad of me. 61 pubs in 12 hours. What did you do? Just go to each pub, run around the town to each pub and just sing a song?
Well, what happened, Dax, was my youngest son obviously was in that hospital that I wanted to raise money for.
Yep.
When he was born. He's absolutely fine now. He even plays the guitar. He's just a cool dude. And I had this idea that I was going to try and raise money for the scanner appeal that they were looking for the kids' hospital. And I thought, I'm going to see how many bars I can sing in under 12 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So I got all the go-ahead, through the right channels. I got the all clear, set off on the Saturday morning at 11 o'clock. And I managed to do 61 bars just under 12 hours, just a bit under 11 o'clock that night.
Wow, that's amazing.
And some of the bars I had to sing 2 songs because they wouldn't let me go.
Yeah.
But
Encore.
encore. I did manage the 61 bars, Dax. Raised thousands, and it was all manually collected. Coins, pound notes, thrown into buckets. And I was absolutely exhausted, but it was one hell of a journey, and it was worth it. And it was covered by the press, and Guinness Book of Records were interested in it. But it was just one of these things that I done, and the kids benefited from it. The scanner appeal.
For sure.
So
For sure.
it was good. It's good fun.
So you've moved back. You've obviously moved away from home, And you also told me a story because you had watched a previous interview that I had done with Will Day, where we were talking about Father's Day and my father passing away during all of this COVID situation. Well, same thing happened to you, right?
Yeah, that's right, Dax. I was watching one of your interviews, and it just so happened that you were in the same position as me, and I'm deeply sorry to hear about your dad. You know, I know what you're going through, mate. Um, yeah, I just made it back to the UK in time
Mm.
to Scotland. He actually waited for me, and
Oh, that's beautiful.
um, you know, my wife managed to get me a change of flight, which meant that I could get out of Canberra and over to Scotland in time
Mm.
for his passing.
Mm.
And I managed to spend some hours with him.
Mm.
And yeah, it was sad. It was sad, you know. Obviously, letting them go, telling them it's okay, you can go,
Mm.
and all that. But I'm so glad I had that.
Yeah.
You know, that was although it was very sad, it was a beautiful moment.
Mm.
Um, and then I just knew that he was at peace.
Mm.
So we couldn't really have a proper service, you know, and
Mm.
because it was just family because of the current climate we're under.
Mm.
And it was just one thing after the other. I couldn't get a flight back to Australia, and eventually I got a flight about 5 weeks later,
Wow.
and it was just horrendous because everything was in lockdown. You were very restricted in what you could do,
Mm.
and it's still the same in Scotland. You know, nothing's really changed.
Mm.
And it took me 2 days getting back to Australia.
Mm.
I had to spend the night in London. There was no one there. It was just ghostly.
Mm.
Spent a night on a couch in Doha, uh, just on my own. There was maybe only 20 people in the airport. Complete lockdown.
Mm.
Eventually flew on to Sydney, and then I was 2 weeks in quarantine in Sydney, and that was horrendous.
I don't know how anybody can do those quarantine hotels. I tell you what, the stories I've heard coming out of Australia about quarantine hotels, I want to stay away.
Honestly, Dax, I can't explain it. It was as soon as we landed in Sydney, we were just we were just chaperoned. We were just like, "Yous are coming here," and that is it. You know, escorted off the plane onto the buses to get us to the hotels. Um, it was absolutely horrendous, you know, and I really don't know how I would have managed without Facebook. And my wife and a close friend of ours, Margaret Ann, brought my guitar over to the hotel, so I managed to write some songs in the hotel, and that kind of kept me sane, you know. But God, it was absolutely horrendous, you know.
Oh yeah,
Really
yeah.
was terrible. I'm not even going to mention anything about the food.
It's a strange world we're living in right now. I still don't know when I could think about going home. Like I'm still in China. I don't know if I could ever go back home the way things are, you know, like, you know, second waves in Melbourne and could be a possible second wave in China. We don't know yet. It's all a wait and see game. Today 51 new cases. So that's a big jump from 7 or 8 cases a day. So we're sort of looking at that, going, okay, what are we expecting here? We just have no idea. And then the UK is blowing up again. So they're heading into their second wave. Brazil's heading into their second wave. So I don't think the US has stopped having a wave. I just think it's just a continuous wave over there.
Yeah.
I don't know how we're ever going to get past it. I don't know that we're going to be back to the way we used to be before COVID. I just don't see it.
Nah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's probably, it's a changed world now. I think the human race has had such a shake here.
It's a wake-up call. I mean, really, it's a wake-up call. I mean, look at all the damage we've done to the world, over the course of generations, and now we've had this massive wake-up call saying, "Hey, just stop it. Just slow down. Just you've polluted the world so much. You've caused so much garbage across the world. Pollution and everything else. And so this is just Mother Earth saying, you've got to stop." Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. I think Mother Earth has had enough. Maybe this is her way of showing us humans that we can't go on the way we're going.
And there's been warning signs. I mean, people think, people will say things like the virus event started in China, so it was a China problem and stuff like that. But let's look at, the Spanish flu, didn't start in China. It started in America. I don't know why it was called the Spanish flu, but well, I do. But we also had swine flu that started in Mexico. And then we had Ebola that started in Africa. So all of these things have been coming and coming and coming at us for some years now. We had SARS that was big in China. All of these things have been coming at us, and it's been warning signs. And gradually these viruses have been getting worse to try and slow us down, to try and stop us. And now this big one, it's like we're all searching for the vaccine now. I don't think there's going to be a vaccine. I think this is just the new normal.
I think you're right. I think you're right, Dax. I can't. I don't know. We seem to have this every 100 years or so. Yeah. Maybe a lot more recently. Maybe because the population in the world is at a stage now where it can't filter properly. It can't go on the way it should. Maybe there's too many.
We've got to a stage of critical mass where there's too many people. We're killing off everything else, and so we're going to end up becoming extinct if we keep going the way we're going.
Yeah, we're killing so much of the animal life and such. Yeah. You hear about it all the time. We probably don't know the right numbers. No. But yeah, I think if the human race keeps going the way it's going, there could be serious problems. I mean, the problem we've got just now is probably the most serious that we've had.
It is, but there's been warning signs along the way. Like we've had bird flu, we've had swine flu, we've had Ebola, and they were just little warning signs. Like if you keep this up, it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse, and then bang, COVID happens, and this is like, here's your wake up call. Now it's time to act. But anyway, enough of the bad stuff. Obviously, isolation has been hard for a lot of people, and especially for musicians that haven't been able to get out and do what they normally do. You haven't pretty much probably haven't done anything since Beyond the Blaze.
That's right. That's the kind of last festival I played at, Dax. Which I was very, very proud to be part of. Some fantastic musicians, you know, were actually playing that day. Haley Jensen, you know, the band Bruin.
Yeah,
it was an absolutely wonderful day. We raised, you know, a good sum of money, and we got an acknowledgement of the fire department. Yeah, it was good, but I remember the fires very well, and it's been some year.
Australia is one of these places where we are so resilient because we suffer from, you know, the greatest of droughts, the worst of fires, the worst of floods, and now COVID's, you know, and this is the succession. It was, you know, we've had the longest drought in history. And, you know, musicians rallied together and did a lot of benefit concerts for the drought. And then the bushfires took off. And that was huge. It was the worst fire season in history of Australia. So the musicians got together. And it didn't matter which, you know, genre of music it was, whether it was country, whether it was pop, whether it was rock. You know, they all got together and, again, they put themselves together for the country. And then the floods happened in Queensland just after the fires were all done. Massive flooding in Queensland. And just as that sort of slowed down and everybody started getting past that, COVID. And it's just been an absolute wild ride for Australia, and not just for the last year, but for the last 5-10 years. You know, like it's been the longest drought in history. It's been, you know, the worst bushfires in history. The flash flooding that happened in Queensland after those bushfires was the worst flooding they've seen in their history. You know, everything has been. And again, I believe it's Mother Nature telling us something. I believe, you know, all of these were signs that something had to change, and especially in the Australian landscape. It's an arid country. You know, these things are bound to happen if precautions are not taken.
100%. That's all signs. You know, that's all signs from nature. That it can't go on like this. I mean, hailstones. I haven't seen hailstones like that.
As
you know,
big as cricket balls. I mean, what? I've seen hailstones that were like the little rocks, but these things were as big as cricket balls. What?
I know. I was my car actually got destroyed by the hailstones that day.
Oh no.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Yeah.
Trees, branches just getting broken off trees, roofs collapsing.
Yep.
It was unbelievable.
And it's not over yet. I mean, who knows what will happen once we get through COVID? You know, we don't know what's going to happen with the landscape of Australia. However, let's get back onto what you do best, music. Now, you've had these songs hanging around for quite some time, but just recently you just put it out obviously you put it out to your fans, and they responded, and from all over the world, not just Australia, but from the UK, and you ended up with debut #1 on the All Aussie and the International Country Thunder charts. Congrats.
Absolutely. Honestly, it's I can't really describe it. It's something that I thought it's where I've always wanted to be. You know, I've always wanted a #1, and to get a #1 in Australia in the network just amazing, you know, and people that appreciate what I do and enjoy what I do, they were just made up for it, Dax. You know, they loved the fact that I was number one, and
Oh yeah, I saw all the responses. It was amazing.
they knew how much that I wanted the number one. You know, I've had a number 5 in the UK and Irish country charts. You know, number 15 in Europe, but being number 1 in Australia was just like, honestly, that's a huge thing for me. You know, it's something you dream about as a wee boy. You know,
Yeah.
just loved it, mate.
Well, I tell you what, you're gonna have to get on with that. You're gonna have to go and see Jimmy Barnes. You've seen what Jimmy Barnes has been doing, right? Now he's from Scotland as well. And he actually plays the bagpipes. I've seen him do it. That's crazy. But ever since he's been in lockdown, every day Jimmy Barnes has got on live on Instagram, Facebook, what have you, and done a song. And it doesn't matter what song it is. People have been requesting country songs, pop songs, rock songs, alternative songs, and he just goes at it and just does it. It's just amazing. I think he's up to about 120 now, since he's been locked down, and he's been to hospital. This weekend he's going to Darwin to tour, and then he'll go back to lockdown, and he'll do it all over again. So he's just been phenomenal.
Yeah, I do know that name. Yeah.
Yeah, you do. Well, he's been in Australia a lot longer than you. he's pretty much an Australian icon.
Yes.
And
very much.
He's from Glasgow.
Hopefully I'll be able to get a wee chat with him sometime, Dax. Maybe you could help me there.
I'll send him a message and say, "Hey, you got to listen. You got to talk to my mate Wallace." So I guess Scotland has a very, very huge history. Like, you know, we think of, you know, obviously Western people don't know much about, you know, Scotland, but, you know, unless they've watched Braveheart, you know, like, and your name comes from the same thing, Wallace. But it's got a huge history, Scotland, and musically it's quite good. You know, if we think back in history, I guess that we have the Proclaimers. That we remember. That's probably the most famous Scottish band that we remember in my history. And then of course we have the Immigrants. We have Jimmy Barnes. We have John Swan. We have Wallace Mair.
Yeah, absolutely honoured. There's a few good bands from Scotland. One in particular that I love, always have since the 80s, is a band called H2O. Ian Donaldson. Mm-hmm. They had a wonderful song out in the 83 that was number 17 on Top of the Pops, which was the TV channel music show, and it would be he's a lovely man. Ian Donaldson.
Very good.
H2O, absolutely beautiful song. Dream to Sleep it's called.
So tell us your song. Tell us about your song, Forever Dreamin', because that was the #1 song. So tell us about the song. How did it come about? What's the story behind the song?
Forever Dreamin'. I was in Glasgow at the time, and I had this wee melody. And it started off as a ballad, you know. It was one of the finger picking ballads, and I just liked the sequence and the chord change, and then the melody came, you know. And I kind of played around with it for weeks, you know, and took it to the studio, and all of a sudden it turned into a country rock and roll song. And I recorded it with a producer called James Duffin, who's actually Graham Duffin's son from Wet Wet Wet. So I recorded it, and yeah, I recorded it at their house for nearly 2 years, making this album. And obviously Jamie done it huge justice, you know, with the riffs and that he put into it, you know, and the country rock kind of vibe, and it's just worked so well. And I'm not blowing my own trumpet here, but I think that song's going to be around for a wee while, and it's doing well in streams as well. You know, it's nearly 7,000 streams, and
70,000 streams. That's really good. That's great.
7,000 Dax, and yeah, so it's going as well as I could have ever hoped for. You know, I'm feeling really good about that song. I really am.
Absolutely. So, how can people get a hold of it, apart from listening to the Country Thunder Network? How can they get a hold of your album, and how can they get to know more about you?
Just go on to Spotify, and it's Wallace Mair, and the album is called What's in a Name. Yeah, you can also get my YouTube channel, Wallace Mair, video Forever Dreaming, and she's there in all her glory.
Cool. All right, Wallace. Well, thank you very much for your time. It's been wonderful to chat to you tonight. I wish you all the best. I know you've got some new stuff in the pipeline, and so we'll be looking forward to talking to you again once the new stuff gets released.
For sure, Dax. I look forward to that, mate.
No worries. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is Wallace Mair. His brand new track is called Forever Dreamin'. It is on the Country Thunder Network. You can request it from our player. Just go to our website, which is right there, countrythunder.com.au. And you can also vote for it in the Country Thunder 20. It's already been number one. Maybe you can get it back there. Until next time, this is DJ Dax for Dax Chats, and we're proudly supported by Neon Horse in Stanhope, Victoria. Bye for now.